Hey, everybody. It's Craig Anderson. Welcome to this week's Clear Path Leadercast. We are here every week at 12 noon, both in our Facebook group, Clear Path Leaders Forum, and on our YouTube channel. Over on YouTube, just search for Clear Path Coaching and Consulting. Go live every week, bringing you information that will help you become the leader you aspire to be, really focusing on helping accidental leaders become confident executives, confident business owners so that they can achieve the dreams they have for the business and really lead teams successfully, getting people to gather around their vision for where they want to take the business. It is something that I learned over my 30 years working in corporate America and running a small business, growing that business successfully over 3 years, and really took those lessons I learned in corporate America to help grow that small business, scaling those lessons and applying them to small business so that they can grow successfully. And what I really found is the benefits of developing people was a secret to that success. Through so much of my career, it was important to really help people see what they couldn't see in themselves so they could really fully realize their potential, both for themselves and for the company that you're working for, which is important to you as a leader. So what I really wanted to do after that time was really help other accidental executives like I was. I was a guy with an English degree who somehow found myself working in corporate America, leading national teams for companies like JP Morgan Chase and Sallie Mae, and learning what I needed to learn about business and learning about leadership so that I could successfully lead teams. So that's what we're all about here. And we do provide lots of great information in our Clear Path Leaders Forum every week. So would really encourage you to join that group if you're watching over on YouTube. So please do join us there. Certainly you can follow me on LinkedIn, follow me on Facebook, follow me on Instagram as well. So what does all that mean for what we're going to cover today? Today, what I really want to talk about are 3 steps to greater leadership confidence. If you had an opportunity to check out this week's blog post over at clearpathcoaches.com, I talked about my journey from accidental leader to confident executive and what that looked like for me. And I wanted to kind of distill down 3 lessons that I learned over the course of my career that made me a better leader. So much of the risk you have as a leader is second guessing yourself, doubting yourself. And the flip side of that also has some dangers, right? So every positive has a negative. If you're a super overconfident leader, a leader who is so secure in their own opinion that they're not open to others' opinions and don't have that level of self-awareness. So we're going to talk about ways that you can start doing that today. I'm always excited to respond to any questions. So if you just put a comment in the comment section, I'll see that pop up here. It's about a 30-second delay, just so you know. If you approved StreamYard when you went through that process to register, I'll be able to see your name. Otherwise, you'll just show up as Facebook user or YouTube user. So forgive me if I don't get your name right. So at any rate, let's get into what we want to talk about today. We're really going to cover 3 things that are important for you to become a leader who has confidence that they need to be a successful leader. 1, we're going to talk about knowing yourself well. 2, we're going to be talking about the importance of listening before you speak. And 3, the importance of having a great support network around you to become that leader that you aspire to be and to have that level of confidence. So let's talk about the first piece, which is really knowing yourself really well. Let's just talk about self-awareness. A lot of people go through life with kind of a low level of self-awareness. They have a lot of beliefs they think about themselves, but how they present, how they actually act is not in alignment with that. And so they don't really tie into that self-awareness. Great quote. I'm a big Mark Manson fan. And he said, self-awareness is our ability to observe and accurately identify our thoughts, feelings, impulses, and determine whether they are grounded in reality or not. So really having a good sense of who we are. And when you have a strong sense of self-awareness, it gives you better self-control. It helps you regulate yourself better, generates more creativity, self-esteem. It predicts a lot of proactivity, self-acceptance. And it actually makes you a better decision maker because you can sort out in your head those things that you're doing because of some subconscious desire that you might not be aware of, and actually making decisions based on facts that you see before you. It gives you better self-reporting so you understand how you're performing yourself. And if you don't have self-awareness, you're not going to have self-control. So what are we talking about? We're talking about here things like knowing what your strengths and weaknesses are, knowing what you're good at, knowing what you're not good at. Don't delude yourself into thinking, man, I am really a person who can really dig into financials and find those hidden secrets. You may think you're that, but you may have created that over time in some subconscious level to say, I have to be that. I have to be seen like that to be a good leader, to be a good business leader and business owner. And so you start to convince yourself you're good at that. And if you're not really good at it, your subconscious will start telling you that you are, and you're going to make mistakes. So have that self-awareness where your strengths and weaknesses are. And maybe you're good at some things you'd rather not be good at, but you're really good at them. Maybe it's you don't really want to be good at sales, but intuitively you are good at sales. So having an awareness that lets you know, hey, I need to do more of that to make my business or my company more successful. You have to know what your goals and your vision are for yourself and for your business. Having a good vision about where you want to go personally and professionally is going to help you make that leap to grow personally and professionally and communicate that effectively to the team around you. When people understand where you're trying to go and where you're trying to take the company or the business or the division that you work in, you're going to be more effective at helping those people get in line with you and understand how to make those decisions around you. Also, when you have clear goals and vision for yourself and for your business, it's going to help you make really good decisions. It's going to help you make decisions that are aligning not with the short-term problem that you're facing, but with that long-term that you are trying to work towards. Also, know where your energy lies. I'm a big fan of the core values index, which really helps us understand what are those internal consistent energies that we have over time that drive us, that are our go-to when we're operating at our best potential effort, and even some dark sides of those when we're acting under stress, and understanding where that energy is and where the other energies are that we might need to shift to be more successful in what we're trying to do. So this is, and all these are in kind of what I believe to be declining levels of importance. And this, I think, is the most important thing to have confidence as a leader, is to know who you are and to know yourself well. So what do you do to kind of develop that self-awareness? One is just mindfulness. If you're not a meditator or someone who prays, get into the habit of mindfulness, of really being aware of who you are. Maybe build a meditative practice to help you start to develop that mindfulness. Journaling, another great way to just kind of get your thoughts out of your head and onto paper. And sometimes for some of us, there's so much cluttering up in there, it's hard for us to move forward. Getting everything out into a journal can be a really effective tool to help you kind of get out of your head those thoughts that just need to be processed and get those out in the journal. And then the third one, and this is probably the hardest of the three, is to seek actively honest feedback. Find those people that you trust to give you feedback. Reach out to them, help you understand. I actually had a client just yesterday who was really concerned that their communication skills weren't up to par, that they weren't really communicating very effectively. And everything in our conversations didn't indicate that to me. I couldn't see that. And so I encouraged them to reach out to the people around them in authority and really understand in some of these places where she feels she's communicating ineffectively, to get feedback to say, how am I communicating? Because sometimes we trick ourselves, if we're not building into that level of self-awareness. And having that honest feedback that we can trust can help refine our self-awareness and strengthen our self-awareness and help us to see where we're fooling ourselves. So that's point one. Point two, to build more confidence as a leader, is to listen more than you talk. And that's really hard because a lot of us have this idea that as leaders, we're supposed to talk a lot. We're supposed to get up. We're supposed to motivate. We're supposed to drive people. And there's aspects of that are important in leadership. But the day-to-day activities of leadership are not about you sitting at the head of the table and pondering and pontificating and saying all the things. You really need to cultivate the ability as a leader to listen more than you talk. Why? There's a bunch of reasons why this is effective for you. One, you're going to learn more when you're actively listening. And I'm not just talking about standing there while people talk, really actively processing and listening to them, not kind of making in your head as they're talking your response, but really listening to them and what they have to say, because you're going to gain a lot of knowledge that way. And knowledge is power that makes you a better leader. Also, you won't give anything away. Sometimes when we just start riffing and rambling as leaders, we may put something out there that we're not ready to put out there because it's not a fully formed thought. And people will run with it. I've had many times in my career as I was learning this to just kind of have a random casual throwaway statement that was part of my mental process as I was going through. And then people took it to be gospel and what I wanted to do. And suddenly some things were created that I was never intending. So don't give away too many things up front because you haven't fully processed them in your own head. And following on that, you won't say anything really stupid. And, a lot of us, when we're leaders, we like to tell anecdotes, especially people who've been around forever, like I've been. And we only have a limited amount of material. Even somebody who's been around 30 years in a corporate career. I have some really great, insightful stories that you can take some things away from, but I only have so many. And if I'm constantly just using up that material, and then, who's ever seen that expert who, we loved them, and then we start watching more of their videos on YouTube or something, and we're like, oh my God, it's like the same, like 5 stories over and over and over again. So don't give away your material too soon. Save it for the right moment. Also, when you're in that active listening mode, and the active listening benefits the speaker, it builds up the person who's speaking to you. And I remember being called on the carpet for not being by an active listener by one of my employees. And it was really hurtful to them. And that wasn't my intention. But I definitely was not actively listening. I was not paying attention to them. So active listening benefits the team. It's going to build the self-esteem of your team to know that you're actually putting weight behind what it is that they say. And you're listening, repeating back, and then making your commentary. There's nothing wrong with that pause to say, here's what I heard you say. Take a second, think about how you want to respond, and then respond, as opposed to calculating and formulating that response when they are talking. Also, you're going to gain some information when you're listening to people and you're listening more than you talk. And never underestimate the value of silence, because when you take that pregnant pause, a lot of times people will fill the air and they may say some things and you may uncover some things that otherwise you wouldn't uncover because that uncomfortable silence. So give people a second to maybe fill in the blanks on something they weren't quite ready to say. So then ultimately, when you listen more than you talk, the value of what you say goes up. So when you speak, people will listen because then you're bringing value every time you speak. So listen more than you talk. The third one is to build your support network. When you have a strong support network, you will have greater confidence as a leader. So what does that support network look like? One, I talked about who are those people who can give you honest feedback. Find them, make them part of your regular experience. 2, surround yourself with some peers, independent peers. I tell you, I would love to have a scenario where, I felt like other people who were at the same level as me in an organization were those independent peers. But when we're all competing for resources, I had a company that I worked for, and they had a lot of subsidiaries, and I was leading one of them. And, in an ultimate way, I think they wanted the leaders of all those businesses to really support each other as those peers. But at the end of the day, we were all competing for same resources. So, we want somebody who is independent, not somebody who has some of their own self-interest in the conversation, right? We need to be able to trust. So for us to be able to trust, we want to find peers who are independent, whose self-interest doesn't necessarily align with ours, because then they're giving us pure advice. And you want to have it with peers because not everybody understands as a leader what it's like to go through some of these things unless they're a leader themselves. So it's an important piece. The final idea, 2 other ideas is, 1, find a mentor. Find that mentor who may be, a retired person from your company, or maybe a professor, or maybe someone who you just know through some of your social organizations or business organizations. Find that mentor who has been there, who can help give you support and advice as you go through. And then finally, I tell you, I waited way too long in my career to get a coach. When you have that coach, that again is an objective voice in your life that will help you be more successful. So I really encourage you to think about that as well. So those are 3 things that you can do to become a more confident leader. Know yourself well, listen more than you talk, and build a support network around you. And when you have that, you will start to build that leadership confidence, because no matter how well things are going, there are always challenging times as a leader. There's always tough decisions. There's always things you're worried about. And having confidence is something that I think is very important in your own self. I'm not saying you have to exude confidence all the time, because there is some value in vulnerability and honesty with your team. But having confidence ultimately in your leadership skills is an important part of leadership success. Now, you may be listening through all this and saying, man, there's some interesting things there I'd like to explore more. I would love to talk to you about it. Schedule a consulting call with me, clearpathcoaches.com/consult call. We'll grab quick 15 minutes, kind of get a sense of what's going on, and then see where we go from there and decide mutually if it makes sense for us to have further conversation. I always get a lot from those short conversations, and I always do my best through listening more than I talk to give you some value in those conversations as well. So again, clearpathcoaches.com/consult call. Thank you all so much for joining me today. If you're catching this later today, drop a hashtag replay with any questions that you have so it pops up so I can answer any questions that come to you as you're watching through this. Thanks, everybody, so much. I hope you all have a great day, and I will speak with you soon. Bye-bye.